to the Without the Bank podcast, where you and I are going to talk about all things IBC, the business of banking, utilizing money correctly, and how this will help you grow your business and your wealth. Thank you very much for tuning in again to the Without the Bank podcast. And if you have not left a review, please could I ask you to do that? And I would also appreciate if you would share with somebody. That truly is the best way to get this information out. And you might have to tell people that you're a little crazy. They may think that at first, but hey, we have to make some changes, and we can't do that if people don't know where to go to find answers. And that is exactly what today's podcast is about. Change. And we were talking about this as a group of agents that get together and visit. And I also seen on a reply to one of my Facebook ads, somebody said the fact that there are answers out there, people just don't want to do them. There are solutions. People just don't want to look for them. People don't want to take action and do them. And that's exactly what I am talking about. I heard somebody say in a podcast that I was listening to, if staying where you're at is less painful than the pain of changing, you're going to stay where you're at. Because we all know that change is painful. We all know that, right? But if it's more painful than where we are, we may as well just stay where we are. If I have to change the way I cook or the way I eat to lose weight, and that change is more painful than where I'm at now and how I feel and unhealthy I am, I'm not going to change that, right? In that example, that's me. Like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out how to cook all this stuff. I have to plan. It's a pain in the butt. I'll just stay where I'm at because I don't feel bad. I don't love it, but I don't feel horrible. I'm not dying. That is why people who are dying say, oh, now I'm going to stop smoking. Now I'm going to stop chewing. Now I'm going to stop doing whatever it is that's causing the illness. People call me all the time and say, Mary Jo, can you lend me money? We are at the very end. We can't do anything else. Now they're looking for change. Now they're looking at different avenues, or something drastic has happened with their business or their farm operation, and now we need to look for change. Very few people are going to be proactive and do things. Very few people. It's a very small portion of the population. There are answers. We have to look for them. And as we were talking in our agent meeting, one of the agents was talking about the fact of everything that's going on and people are not paying attention. And Nelson always said to us, if we use the banks, we are part of the problem. Banks turn money 10 to 1. If you put $1 in the bank can lend out $10. They go to the Federal Reserve, they get $10, they keep $1, they lend out $9. Okay, so they can borrow 10 to 1. They can lend out the extra 9. That's causing inflation. So Nelson says if we all do infinite banking and we all borrow against our life insurance policy, the insurance company cannot turn money 10 to 1. They can't go to the Federal Reserve, right? They have to use their own money. If we all did this, we wouldn't have a Federal Reserve problem. We may not even have a government problem. If you listen to Bob Murphy and Carlos Lara, who are Austrian economists and a business consultant that worked with Nelson, they said there's a 10% tipping point. If we get 10% of the population to stop using the banks on a large scale, we don't have to worry about this inflation problem. Now, is that true? I don't know. Is it a goal we should all be looking at? Absolutely. But if we are not paying attention, so let's just reverse that and say if we are not paying attention to what's going on in the world today, what bills are they trying to pass in Congress that could hurt us? Step up in basis. Yesterday, I heard that they want to change the Roth IRAs. So if you have over $20 million in a Roth IRA, they want to make you disperse that. And so why are they attacking Roth IRAs? So they want to make some changes to Roth IRAs. They want to go in and look at, well, if you have over a $600 transaction, your bank must report that to the IRS so the IRS can track anybody that has over a $600 transaction. Now, will any of this come to fruition? I have no idea. I'm not going to sit back and be super duper worried about it, because worrying doesn't do anything, right? I can look for the solutions of, okay, if they want to do these things, maybe start asking, why do they want to do them? What can we do to avoid all of this government intervention in the future? But if we're not paying attention to these things and just saying, just let the government do what they want, we are part of the problem. By not planning and letting the government take care of us, we are part of the problem. You don't have to be loud and obnoxious and rioting and all the other stuff that goes along with that to implement change and pay attention to what's going on. If we're going to stick our head in the sand, we are part of the problem. Now, my head is not in the sand, but I look at all of this stuff from a 3,000-foot view, right? Or 10,000-foot view, or however that saying goes. I look at this stuff from a bigger picture and I always say, well, what is the likelihood that Bill XYZ is going to pass? Okay, if it does, what do I need to do to protect myself from this change? If this change affects me. Not oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this to us. How can they do that to us? Because they can do whatever they want. We have allowed them to be in charge. So stop allowing them to be in charge and start taking control. If the pain is great enough, that's when we start looking for other avenues. If they get rid of the step up in basis, guess what? We're going to be forced to look for different avenues, which we should have been doing for the last 100 years. If they take away a Roth, if they change the way we can contribute to a Roth, and they change the rules of a Roth, we need to start asking why. We should have already been asking why. And if you haven't been, you should have been. Why does a government only allow certain people to contribute to a Roth? If you're a high income earner, you can't contribute to a Roth. If you have a 401k with a Roth in it, you can only contribute so much. Well, you can only contribute so much to a Roth regardless. So you can only contribute so much to a Roth. Why do they do that? Why do they tell us we can only put so much in a 401k? Why is anybody putting a limit on us? We should already be asking those questions. And if we aren't, we probably have our head in the sand, right? If we don't like the fact that they're putting limits on us, then why don't we just find another avenue? Which for me is the infinite banking concept. Nobody tells me how much money I can put in a life insurance policy, right? I can put up to my human life value, which is a legitimate end. Like people's human life value is very high, or 1.5 times your net worth. That's a lot of money for most people. So we have some limit on what we can put in ourselves, but then we can start putting money on insurance on other people. But the government doesn't tell us how much we can put in there. The government doesn't tell us what we can use our money for. The life insurance company doesn't tell us what we can use our money for. We can use it for whatever we want, whenever we want, and we can pay it back whenever we want. So we have to decide, are we going to be part of the problem, or are we going to find a solution? And if we want to have a solution, how painful does it have to get before we go looking for a solution? Chances are, if you're listening to this, you're already looking for a solution. Because most people that like to moan and complain are not going to be listening to something that they can grow themselves, that they can grow their wealth, that they can take back control, right? Most of those people aren't going to be listening to this podcast. Should you be sharing this? Absolutely. Should you be part of the solution and saying, stop complaining, moaning, and groaning, and start thinking about how can I do something instead of how can somebody take care of me? Or, oh my gosh, that's just how it is. There's nothing that we can do. Boy, you guys know I'm 100% German. Yeah, There are some things that are going to set me off, and those are it. Oh, I can't do that. I'm either going to lose my you know what, or I'm going to just ignore you and move on. It depends on my mood. It just depends how ornery I feel at the moment. But don't tell me you can't do something. You can do whatever the heck you want to do. Figure out how to do it. Nobody is stopping you. Be creative. Ask the questions, how can I? But don't be part of the problem. Share this podcast with people that think that they don't have a solution. If you met with a friend and they were complaining about the stock market, they were complaining about the commodity market, they were complaining about not having enough information for their taxes and we're paying too much in taxes and how do I have cash flow, right? If they're complaining about punching a clock because they don't know how they're going to retire, they're basically just paying their bills and living day to day. It is then your obligation to email or text them a podcast. Text them this podcast. Text them Robert Kiyosaki's podcast. I don't care what you text them. Don't text them Dave Ramsey crap because he's just a whiner and a complainer as well. Text them a solution. Unless, of course, they're in major debt and they need the debt snowball, then you can text them Dave Ramsey crap. But give them solutions, out-of-the-box solutions. And then if they don't do anything, then you can be done. But if we never tell somebody what the cure for cancer is, they will die from cancer. And not everybody's going to look for the cure. Most people are going to just die from the cancer. But you never know. 1 in 10 may actually pay attention. But we only need 10% for that tipping point. And there is a book out there that goes over the 10% tipping point. So I don't pull that 10% out lightly. In the book, it says if 10% of the population is wearing Nike, then Nike becomes super famous, right? Let's use Carhartt as an example right now. Farmers and ranchers and blue-collar business owners and workers have wore Carhartt their entire lives. I grew up with Carhartt. It is the best outdoor clothing that I am aware of, right? You just go get a Carhartt because it's good. You know you're going to stay warm when it's 60 below outside. I still wouldn't stay warm when it's 60 below outside because I'm super cold all the time. However, that's just a little side note. But right now, if you look, Carhartt has become this icon. It's like the new Nike, the new Adidas, the new Under Armour. People in cities are wearing Carhartt beanies. Oh, it's the cool thing. Carhartt jackets, Carhartt pants. I have no idea how Carhartt did this, but this is what happens. If 10% of the population says, I am going to wear Carhartt, now everybody sees that and we make a name for it, right? And it becomes this huge movement. And now we have more than 10% of the population. It is a big deal. If 10% of the population is wearing 1980 acid wash jeans, that's going to become the new fashion. It's a real thing. And if we can share this information, what would that do? How many people's heads could we pull out of the sand and stop them from aiding the problem? Do we have a few friends that would pay attention that we could then meet with and have a decent conversation? Because if we aren't going to do anything, we're part of the problem. Just like if we go to the bank, we're part of the problem. Stop complaining. Be proactive on your finances. And we all love one subject, right? Clearly, I am not proactive on my health. I mean, if you all have seen me, I'm not exactly the most fit individual. But I care, like my passion is finances, right? My passion is helping farmers and blue collar business owners. And that's my passion. And that's where I tend to lie. And that's where we all tend to lie. But that doesn't mean I stick my head in the sand about nutrition. Absolutely not. It doesn't mean I implement it all the time. I'm not perfect at it. Nobody's perfect at anything. But my head's not stuck in the sand saying, well, I don't know anything about it. And I think some of us are just more curious by nature. Like, I am very curious about everything, and I love to know about stuff, and I love to ask questions. And some people just aren't. And maybe those aren't going to be our 10%, right? But if that's all we need to pay attention, then pay attention. Find your 1 in 10 friend that actually gives a crap to make some changes. Because we cannot continue to have a country that are all problems. They're all part of the problem. Because we're just going to, we're going to check a little box on election day and we're going to elect those people and then we're never going to pay attention again until the next election day. We can't do that. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That doesn't matter. Pay attention to what is going on. Open your eyes to see what is happening. If we are going to limit Roths, if we are going to get rid of the step up in basis, if we're going to have to report over $600 of a transaction, that's every vehicle payment, that's every house payment has to be reported. Why? Reporting it doesn't affect me. It's going to affect me eventually because the bank's going to have to charge fees to pay for all these new people. But why? Are they trying to get rid of small banks? What is the point of all this? Very much like when we had healthcare change and we all of a sudden, all of these small clinics had to implement new software that was very, very expensive to report to Blue Cross Blue Shield. That left a lot of small medical facilities out of business. Why? Are we just wanting big healthcare so it's easier run by the country? What is the point here? Why are we making these changes? Why are we taking away a Roth option? Because the government needs money today? Well, a Roth would give them money today, so that doesn't even make sense. Is it because they want you to put money in an IRA so when the sunset provision goes away and taxes go up, they get more tax money later? I don't know. I am 100% speculating, but I'm not even going to participate in it. Because as Nelson said, it's government control. When the government makes the rules and the government makes an exception to the rule that they made, we better be opening our eyes and paying attention to what's going on. We better be questioning what the motive is. It is not very likely that that motive is to help us. Okay, that did not have a ton to do with me teaching you about infinite banking, but it does present the solution to a problem. And one of those solutions is whole life insurance and the infinite banking concept, right? One of the solutions. That's not all. You can't just use the infinite banking concept and think it's going to fix everything financially. No. You have to still manage your money. You still need to have cash flow. You need to learn about other things to invest in. You need to understand your taxes. There's a lot of stuff. It's not just, I'm going to buy a life insurance policy and the world's going to be fabulous. No, that's not what I'm saying. And I've never said that. It is part of the solution. But if you don't ever start part of that solution, what are you going to do? Sit back and complain because somebody's not taking care of you? Okay, folks, if you have not gotten the book, Life Without the Bank, or Becoming Your Own Banker, please do so at withoutthebank.com. You can go there, you can grab my book, Life Without the Bank, and then you can grab Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. If you just want to read one and see how it is first, then you're going to want to grab mine. Nelson's is a little more difficult to understand, so mine is a good intro to that. Once you have read one of those books, then feel free to make an appointment with me. I am happy to just do an 1.5-hour consultation, see how everything is going at no charge. No, you do not have to pay me. No, I am not making a shit pile of money on the books. For heaven's sakes, people. I want you to read the book so that you understand what's going on. Now, here's a good example of why I do that. My daughter-in-law said, Mary Jo, you do something with money, right? Because the kids don't pay attention. I said, I do. She's like, well, I would like to meet with you. I said, well, you can't until you read the book. I made my own daughter-in-law read the book. And she read the book and she was like, oh my gosh, Mary Jo, this is amazing. I am so excited to meet. When can we meet? And so it's important that we all understand what is going on in our conversation. Otherwise, you're going to feel like I'm trying to sell you something and I'm actually wanting to teach you something. So please give it a read. I also have it on audio. Go to withoutthebank.com. If you have comments, questions, concerns, you can email me at maryjo@withoutthebank.com. All right, till next time, have a fabulous week.